Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Doug the Retirement Guy with the monthly review of our weekly ETFs. We try to do this on a monthly basis, give you guys all the newest updates of what's going on with the most popular funds. And today we have NVDW from Roundhill, the WeeklyPay Nvidia ETF. We're going to give you the updates, the changes, the performance over the past weeks, just to keep you up to date on the fund. Well, we got to put a shout out to all of our Patreon supporters, all of our YouTube subscribers. If you're not part of the channel, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, and best of all, if you're not part of our Patreon group, why not? Join. It's free. Go ahead. There's a link down in the description. Click on that link. Join for free. Get the information. If you like it, then you can always support the channel from there. Let's get into today's video. Notice to all viewers, past performance does not guarantee future results. The information in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you need financial advice, always contact a financial advisor or professional before making those financial decisions. I am not a financial advisor. So let's get into the fun. This is the NVDW, the Roundhill Nvidia WeeklyPay. Now, what this is an exchange-traded fund that mostly invests in information technology equity. The fund actively is managed and seeking to provide weekly distributions and 1.2 times the leverage exposure of the weekly price return of NVIDIA stock. So they do use a leveraged with some covered calls on top of that to generate the weekly distributions. They have assets under management of $131 million. They have an expense ratio of 0.99%, which is kind of common with the Roundhill package and Roundhill family. They have about 2.85 million shares outstanding, and this fund started on February 19th of 2025. So, we almost... what are we away? 3 months away, so 3/4 of a year under the belt. And already Roundhill is advertising a 61.64% distribution rate. Now, of course, those numbers can always change. They will change on a daily basis, weekly basis. So always keep up to date and focused on that. Let's take a look at the holdings. You can look at this, and they actually do hold NVIDIA stock. They also hold some U.S. Treasury bills, which is where they rest their money at. You can see almost $86 million of their money is sitting in Treasury bills right now. Now, here's what the forecast is. And what we call this is a short-term forecast over the next 3 months. And we use a what-if forecasting. Because I want to be upfront and tell everybody is nobody really knows. No one ever has an idea. They see the future, but they can't tell you the future. If someone does, they wouldn't be in the stock market. But here's what the experts come back to us and what we have done our research with to see what's going on. In a bullish market, you could really see a total return up 10 to 18%. Weekly distributions between 2.5 to 4% over the next 3 months. And that comes into, and this is where the what if forecast comes into. What if NVIDIA rallies strong 20+%? The market is strong, the volatility is moderate, and distributions are stable even with ROC. If those are the cases, that's a bullish market. That's where you'll see your 10 to 18% total return growth, along with that 2.5 to 4% growth in the distribution rate. Now, base case, this is the what if forecast. What if NVIDIA modestly gains 5 to 15%, has a moderate volatility, distributions hold, but some ROC risk remains? Well, you got a good case of from basically a 0 to a 10% growth in the fund, a 1.5 to 2.5 growth in the distributions over the next 3 months. Now, the next bear market and volatility comes in. What if NVIDIA stalls and fails, and volatility spikes, and leverage backfires, and distribution may be trimmed or heavy ROC component? They're looking at a possible 0 to 10% drop in the fund. We're still seeing a positive of 0.5 to 1.5 over the next 3 months of the distribution estimate coming through. Now, that's a short-term record. That means the next 3 months. Projections has high uncertainty because no one can tell you the future. What you have to do, and as I personally do, I read all of this and then figure out what is the market doing? Where do I feel the market is at? And then I take my own personal information and I choose one of these top 3 categories. And most of the time, I come right into the base case. Do I see an NVIDIA modestly gaining? In my opinion, I do see that. Do I see moderate volatility? Yes, I do see that. So this is where my base case is. We're going to probably see a total return of 0 to 10%. Now, that's just my opinion. I'm no forecaster. I'm no financial wizard. It's just what I feel comfortable with. So let's take a look at the charts on NVDW. I call it adjustable path. And what is that? It's adjusting. It's moving up and down, but not going very far south. Over the past month, it's 2.76% down. 6 months, it's up 28.38%. And year to date, up still 10.62%. We look at what happened in June. It was floating right around that $43 price point. In July, August, and early September, it rocketed all the way up to $52. NVIDIA did the same exact thing. And then through September, through October, it settled itself down. It's quieted down. The hype has come off of AI. People, markets are talking about AI's not as strong as what they think it's going to be. And then we had a big kick in November again. We get the reports back from NVIDIA, how strong they've actually done. They rocketed and then dropped off, but here we go again. It's starting to build up, and we're seeing that bouncing between that $45 and $48 price point, while before it was $45 to $52. So there is some room in there for definitely some growth, and we see in the past 6 months it's had a solid growth. The 4-week moving average of the price is $47.71. So we're about $1 above the moving average as of recording this video. Let's take a look at the dividends that come out. Now, NVDW pays weekly. You can see it's been fairly positive across the board, right about that 50+ cent range. As you get more volatility, you'll see more increases in the fund and then basically back to a stable area. The average is about 48 cents per week. The last payout was 57 cents, so about 9 cents more than the average. And since September 29th, it's been paying above that average mark. So looks like a nice growth pattern, a nice package, as long as there's some volatility coming out of it. So remember, these are never guaranteed. These are not set in stone. They adjust week in, week out, and sometimes you'll have a good week and sometimes you have a bad week. So you got to stay focused on what's going on with the funds. Now let's take a look at the return on investment. NVDW with that new 58-cent dividend gives you an average price of 48 cents on the dividend. So if you take that current price of $48.72 and divide it by 48 cents, it will come back and tell you got 101 weeks or 1.95 years of getting your return back on your investment. Now, I personally use a number of basically anything under 1 year is my tool. Now, that may be different for you, but I always use one tool, and that's the one downfall I have of this fund, is that it's going to take 2 years to get my money back out of the fund. Now we're going to hope that we continue to get additional growth, which will help reduce those numbers and give us in a better position. But remember, based on the current numbers, which change daily, this is what they're sitting with. Now, Roundhill explicitly states that NVDW distributes many, including return of investor capital. The last statement said that they used 100% in the distributions. Most of us know and understand that while using ROC is a key tax and income risk point, and they use it for tax advantages. But what we have to always make sure we watch is the assets under management. If we start seeing assets under management dropping, that means that the fund is starting to use its own money and actually give you return of capital, which is literally your money coming back to you. So when we look at the assets under management, as of right now, the assets under management are $131.31 million. When I look at some longer history of this, it's been bouncing between at 131 to 134 in $1 million in assets. Now, the fund, remember, launched in February 19th of 2025. Now, the past month, it's up $52 million over the last month, according to the EF database. That implies basically a $70 to $80 million a month earlier. So over the past 3 months, we've seen an $88 million over the last 3 months of increase. So that's roughly, again, about 43 to 45 million. So it's a continuous, right now I see a continuous growth of the fund, slow and steady, which is what you want to see in assets under management. When we start seeing this declining, that's when we're going to panic. So NVIDIA, I do like this fund. It's got a stable assets under management. I'm not excited about the 1.95 in years to get my money back into it. Again, I go back to is hoping that we're going to get additional growth out of it that will help make things look better on the paper. The share price down only 2.76 over the last 30 days, which has not been, I know it's bad being down, but not as bad as I've seen other funds. And then I'm on the forecasting. I'm going to see that thing to 0 to 10% over the next 3 months. Like I said, that will help the ROI onto it. So this is why I personally like my fund. I'll personally be looking at adding this to my portfolio as I go down the road. So tell me what you think. Do you think this is a good fund to be into or stay away from? Or do you know of a better NVIDIA fund that's out there? Let us know. Leave it in the comments.
Thank you for watching. Press the like button, hit the subscribe button, and join. Leave any comments below and join our Patreon to support the channel. I'm Doug, the Retirement Guy.